Okay, so we are going to talk about the today's topic, ITIL, ITSM, Agile methodology and waterfall models, which provide the insight how the things are working into the IT industries. These are the basic things which really it, uh, if you're working as a support in operations and every kind of uh, industries or your job work is same kind of work profile. So definitely you these terminology or these details should be you should aware about it. So what is ITL, correct? So we already talked about it. It's a detailed information, correct? So where it's a emerged in 1980s. So it's a behind that lots of experience people find out on initially when the IT industries emerged. So at that time they found lots of difficulties, correct? So how to manage, how to go over some work over there on digital format, and those digital format have to be aligned with the different teams, correct? So there is a coordination and those details were missing. So they created some a framework or you can say that it's a kind of best practices which need to be followed and which provide the MNC result for them. So at that time they introduced the ITL, and before that I recall it there is a ISMA which I think 1972 which followed by which I can recall it, it's a IBM. So ISMA is a different structure which designed for managing the things. Okay, so these are the overall things. I don't want to read out everything. So you can understand the best practice emerge and most organizations were migrating planning and digital methodology. The term IT was introduced, referred to these best practices, correct? So I just take out some other details so you will get the more clarity on this, correct? Move on to the next slide is providing the ITL foundations. Uh, if you remember yesterday, we talked about the ITL uh, certifications. So these are the what it contains in every versions. If we talk about version 1, so it's the adoption for the ITIL, correct? So it just provide the the details about it, correct? So how it's what it contains, correct? How it's mature, getting into the picture into the IT industries, correct? So the first is 1980, the industry. So then after P2000 become the access and user friendly, correct? So there is some progress, correct? So people understood if we utilize the ITIL, so this uh like outcome would be it's a different kind of outcome. It's provide the larger visibility and it's a kind of widespread to the the IT industry for the adaptation. Correct. So means major companies into IT industries they adopted this ITIL at that time. Correct. So then after 2007 to 2018, it's one of the biggest or biggest game changer where they built for the when the IT industry change and it utilized into different angle in terms of different business purposes. So let's say telecom, support, customer support, and those kind of things. So they created the version on according to the whatever the uh, uh, industries and their process means you can utilize in different business purposes. The framework should be same sometimes so people who is supporting the customer care, correct? So for them customer is raising something, they will create the request. But if there is a system down or their application is not open, it will count as an incident. Or if the majority of customer is getting the same issue, they will create the incident, correct? So it's depend on the business to business. and what the nature of those business, correct? So it can be tailored, but it's not the framework, the concept, the best practices should not be changed in any circumstance. Tailored in terms of some kind of the naming convention, or the how we recognize the things, so they can tailor it on the business purpose. And V4, you can see, oh sorry, you can see it's more agile, means it's more into the development and the transparency level, correct? So it's also utilize into different terminology, because lots of organization, uh, it's a let's say Amazon is introduced online marketings, different categories of business are introduced in after 2000, correct? So they created the another uh, it's a ITIL V4, which yesterday I just given the short intro on that. Right? So classification, I already talked about it. It's a, the incident, major incident, problem, chain, means it's a part of incident and major incident. But major incident have their own categories in terms of it's highly immediate action that required. Like it cannot be delayed 5 to 10 months. So they have just categorized, but it's part of an incident. Problem, change, release, service request, and so on. They have created much more. If you read out the first line over here, that as with any new process, it's essential to clear, define the nomenclature that will be used part of your ITSM culture. Correct? When implementing the ITL, the following definitions are used, correct? So the same, which we talked on previous slide, so same definition they have given. This is the flow, just I taken out. So if you see on core, it's ITL, so it's a service strategy which followed, correct? So service, transitions, service operations, and then after there is a outer ring is saying continuous service improvement. Correct? So this is the base, the framework which we talked about. Any question till now here? Okay, I will take it as no. So next, another just this transformation can be done like this. So it's like just given the defined as per the organization if we utilize, so we can see like in this term project, correct? So some organization is there if they are utilizing on the operation purpose. So operation have their incident problem chain, correct? So might be the whole framework will be utilized, or under their operations have their own terminology and the own strategy to follow this whole profile, correct? Whole strategy, correct? So, so transition design, and these are the primary strategies. So all things are there, correct? So same, it's taken from the concept, and after that it's taken out implemented over in some of the terminology. Yeah. Okay. So we will move on to the next. So five life cycle process in ITL framework. So first, if you read out the five and what it contains, it's given the some of the uh, it's a kind of methods, or the modules, or kind of how it what things can be categorized into the in ITL framework. If I talked about service strategy, so there is a strategy management, demand management, service portfolio management, financial management, correct? Business relationship management. So lots of things are there. And we talk about the service design. I'll just show you back. So if you see here, so service design, if we talk about it here, the service design, correct? If the service strategy, there is service strategy, correct? The first core is the service strategy. So service strategy is here. Then after design, so design, then transition, then operations, so continuous service improvement. These are the kind of uh, process which adhere this that core concept of ITIL framework, correct? So service transition, what can be done, correct? So you can see the change management, which we talked about it. So the core concept is depend on the on the ITIL framework. So the framework is here, correct? Now we will move on to the next. So major the confusion is here. People talked about the ITIL and ITSM. So it's one liner. It's pretty much straightforward. ITSM describes how a given organization manages its services, correct? So if you read out the first line, it's clear out your confusion, where we can use it, how we can utilize it, and how we can what the difference between the ITL and ITS, correct? And the second half of that details, whereas ITL is a framework for ITSM, correct? Which we have talked about yesterday. That is made up of a specific process and guidelines for delivering the IT services, correct? So this is the overall picture about the ITSM and ITR, correct? So, okay. Any question till now?
No, Gaurav.
Okay.
I'm
Thank,
good from my side.
thank you, Nivet. Now move on to the next. What is ITSM? Correct. So in pretty much straightforward on this line, if you read out the IT service management is a set of policies, process, and procedure to design, plan, and operate, control, and improve customer-oriented IT services. Correct. So it's kind of managing the. So if you read out the full form also, it's information technology service management. It what does if you recall it the word management, so itself it is define that it's managing the IT services. You can bifurcating in this way, or you can take the understanding on the other way. So what it does, it manages the IT services. So how it's managing, how it's following, it's not designing. Its core concept, the framework is taken from the survey, ITIL. So on the ITIL framework, whatever the strategy, whatever the the managing and improving and everything was designed. If you remember the continuous continual improvement and lots of things are there, correct? So lots of core concept utilized into the service IT service management, correct? So these are the I just taken out some details. You can read it out. Okay. Moving on the next slide. These are the how the ITSM work. If you remember, we talked about the services strategy and the reports and dashboards are there, the means visibility for the continual uh, service improvement. So these are the IT related things, correct? So if you talk about incident, change, service, and lots of things like I said, knowledge and everything. So these are managing for your IT services in different terms. If we talked about incident, so incident is taking care of something you're broken or something happened, correct? Change. Change is if anything broken, why it's broken, and on that the problem management comes into the picture. It will analysis, and if there is a some they found that there is a bug or some changes or some code changes or some new app, the improvement required in terms of like some developing the crucial development is required. So they will go for like change management. Change can be created from the different angle. One is like the incident problem, and then after change, or sometimes it required like new implementation, new development is required. So they will directly create the change. Correct. So this is another service request. So if someone needed the access, correct. So what they do, they will ask for like create one service request, like one ticket, and they will provide the access uh into the like system, into the application, that kind of thing. It's not related to like something broken down and you will create the service request as per the best practices. Correct. So you can see here the like some of the forms like service desk is utilizing incident, problem, change, and asset, and those things are like service catalog. And service catalog, it means like have different forms for internal purpose, for external user, different forms. We will talk about those details like in detail into the service now. So any questions from here like on this on the process wise or anything that you would like? So I think on the area, the project management and service portfolio management, service asset management, knowledge and service catalog. So these all are like part of this ITSM. How to manage your like IT services, correct? So let's say I'm in operation, I will need some access and everything. So those things should be managed under the like into the ITSM, correct?
Your voice is breaking sometime, like it is going away and then it is coming again.
Okay, let me know. Is it fine right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's
Okay,
good.
let me know like if anything happens. Okay, so this is how the things are there, and every mod like every module in terms of I'm talking about service now. So every modules like if you talk about incident management, problem management, change management, asset management, knowledge management, service catalog. So these are part of like every process which like I explained you like the incident, problem, change, and everything. Correct. So those are the different purposes. Correct. Okay. Any question anyone have? Okay. So I will take it as a no. Let's move on to next slide. So it's a principle which like I just taken out so that you will get the idea. So strategy, so need people, correct? So worked on the particular uh, operation or support or anything that what we required actually, correct? Into the ITSM, we need people, we need technology, which technology we are going to work. And then we need to design the process. And then after, it will be delivered to the end customer, whatever the customer would be there, correct? So there is some like the sometimes people taken out in different way IT like ITSM. So sometimes like it was a like mistaken as a software solution, correct? So it's not software solution, it's a like some combination of delivering the services. It can be say like this, correct? So there is a process adherence, like the people should be on the like saying, so like on the different angles, technology, which technology like we are supporting, correct? So those kind of things. So if you see that process, people, and technology, software is one of the component of an ITSM solutions, correct? So it's a kind of one of component, nothing else. And ITL certification in ITSM software products, so Agile, Lean, IT, like lean IT is kind of like it's removing the wastage, or in terms of like the process or something is doesn't need for the for the organization, and we are uh, utilizing those process into the into the IT industries or any process that. So we need to remove those wastage on under the lean certification. They will tell you how to remove it, and what need to be take the actions, and how you will clear out your uh, uh, the costing, everything would be there, like on the costing process, people, and everything is included over there. Whatever the wastage would be there, so it will be removed from under this certification. They will talk about it, correct? So I just given the sum of the name. So yeah, if you want to explore it, you can find out much more certifications are existed. In ITIL itself, they have a different strategy, lots of certifications also. It's not like we for only the one certification. If you see that I want to do the certification in ITIL, so you will get the clear picture how much whatever the core concept wise they are also designed the certification, correct? If I want to go on the strategy, so a strategy related this certification also included. If you're going to the project management, so they have created some ITL related to project management also. And one of the famous project management certification which globally recognized, it's a PMP, if you heard of it, project management portfolio. So this is one of the biggest if you did it, so it's equivalent as a project manager you can work over there, because you understood the process, how to manage the project, and how what strategy, everything related to that, correct?
So is PMP also a part of ITSM?
It's more into the project management, I would say. It's not part of ITSM. It's more into the project management. It's highly,
Okay.
yeah, it's highly recommended. When people have the 5 years, who is managing the team, correct? So if we want to move on into the career into the project, managing the projects, correct? Might be he will become the delivery head, or anything managing the small teams also, managing couple of multiple teams also. So those certification will provide the basic structure how you can do it. Even in PMP also it categorized on different angles, correct? So it's a foundation level, it's initial level, then after the costing, and how to hire the people on the cost basis. Lots of procedural things are there. So it designed on different angles. So the basic thing PMP, you will start from there. Under that they have the qualifications different angles. So which you have to look after after completing the first certification. So those will be always be beneficial in if you see that lots of in Agile also they have the different certifications, correct? So Scrum Master, or you want to basic understanding about the Agile, so they have the different certifications. So every whatever you are seeing, it's much more certification I existed, which globally recognized. Many organizations they especially needed this certification. They will in asterisk mark they will always mention in big organization, because they are process oriented, so they follow the standards, and standards should be mentioned into the when you are have the certification, those certification based on the standards, correct? So those are the part of your certifications. Okay, so okay.
So Gaurav, I have a question.
Mhm.
Let me explain what I understood. So ITSM is nothing but it's not like a programming language or a technology, but
Mhm.
rather than that, it's a set of rules or methodology which is applied to complete a specific task, right?
Yeah, it's task in terms of the process wise, correct? Process, you already, if you are working into the recruitment I'm giving on in your working experience. So if you're working into the any what say, if you are using any application, correct? So
Yes.
that application should be have some process, correct? So it goes for approval, or it's have integration with different applications, correct? So sometimes what happen, your application doesn't work or some interruption happen, correct? So
Yes.
what you will do, correct? So you will not go your manager and all, because there will be some process. If you're getting this issue, so you have to connect with help desk. Help desk will create some ticket, correct? So then
Yes.
after, the process will be there, correct? So they will connect with the help desk, create the ticket, and that ticket will be assigned to the particular uh the who is handling your application, which because you are the end user, you doesn't know what the technical changes need to be done, or something some interruption happened, or some servers down, you doesn't know. So those process oriented thing, correct? Your services should be up always, correct? So those will be consideration in focus of in ITSM. So if that's what I mentioned, if you read it out on this line on starting in red, IT service management, to manage the IT service, correct? It's a process oriented. You're getting my point?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. You follow anything regarding what the process should be there, correct? You follow to those process to some flexibility. For example, if you're going to any government organizational thing, correct? So you know that what I need to do. First, I need to take this stamp paper. If I want to buy the land, correct? So I have to go over there, buy this stamp paper. Someone have to write down everything with details, correct? And after that, it's getting into the some process where the registrar and your advocate would be there, so he will giving the stamps and everything, details should be there, correct? So the process should be there. After getting all the process, the who is the selling out the land, and you are the buyer, correct? So both have to present in front of the uh, the whatever the authorities would be there, correct? And just you will get the thumb impression, everything would be there, correct? So that is the process, correct? It's best practices that we are following, and we are getting the outcome also, correct? Because you know that what I need to follow. Otherwise, if you don't have idea, or if you don't have process, so how you will come to know what need to be next, correct? So that's how. So some people will be there. So on your condition, on your situation, which we talked about, if your application down, so whom you connect with the service desk. Now service desk knows that what need to be done at backend thing, correct? So that is the flow, that is the process we are following, and those process are belongs to my services should be up, correct? My services should be managed anyhow, no, it's getting down, I need up right now. Whatever the action items, it will take by the team. You doesn't care about it, correct?
Yeah, got it, Gaurav. Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So the agile methodology is a way to project by breaking it up several phases, correct? Which we talked about it, constant collaboration with the stakeholders, continuous improvement on at every stage, and the work begins in terms of through the process of planning, executing, evaluating, and the continuous collaboration in between both the team members and project itself. So if you see that the flow, that the methodology which follow initial planning, then after deployment, but this circle should be followed, correct? So planning, requirement analysis, implementation, testing, and then it will go for deployment. If something in testing find out anything some failure, correct, some bug, so again he have to do the same circle. So what happened, if I need to develop anything, I will find immediately what the issue is there. correct? Then I will go for deployment anything, correct? Otherwise, what happened in earlier, like when the agile methodology was not there, and or you can say that extensively it's not followed by the industry, so they followed the waterfall model. So in waterfall model, what happened? It will I'll show you some idea. If you see that, if I'll go for this after if I'll go for this, so in testing, after it goes for, in testing maintenance, again I have to go over the it's a bulk of whole application are developing at one time, and there is no clarity to customer. For example, if I want to develop a mobile app, correct? So in SDLC waterfall model, what happened? We don't know what module, what things are delivered and what things are pending, correct? So what happened in terms of stakeholders or end customers, correct? So what they believe that you are developing the whole application, at the end you will deliver, correct? So UAT and everything would be there. So testing would be when the customer will test it, when the into the production, and might be some failure would be happen. Again, you have to see all the application where it failed out, what I have developed, and everything at a time. But in agile, they break out the things, correct? I'll go on the next memo. So if you see, these are the process wise how the agile framework works, correct? So if you see the details, it pretty much straightforward, correct? So where we have a product owners, product owners will prioritize what type of work and what need to be done, and there is a different terminology, correct? Initiative, epic, user stories, scrum. These are the terminology which utilize into the agile framework. One of the well-known application which I have heard about it, it's a Jira application. It's a Jira. It's a Jira application which follow the agile framework. In Microsoft also, they have the Azure related, some Kanban related agile framework, correct? So those are also the applications which utilize the for agile framework. So you can see the product backlog, sprint planning, sprint backlog, correct? So if you see that the task breakout, 1 to 4 week is sprint, always be sprint would be sprint is it's a, you can say it's a window which contains the task. So if I'll give the example, if I need to do the I need to develop the application, correct? So the how first it will initiative is need to develop the uh, uh, any application, XYZ application. Epic would be this module going to be developed. For example, it's a customer service module should be developed. Now, customer should module contains the user stories. User stories, in other term, it's a task. Task will talk about the what need to be done into the customer service management. So task first task is I need to develop the form where it contains this field. One task. Second task in the same module, like customer service, it will talk about the some of the map the field with the database. Correct. The same way, the multiple tasks will be created.